I should probably maybe have what I want to share with you. Hopefully, this will open up for me. I was
And no,
having
no, I mean, I can fast forward and, get the good parts.
yeah, okay. Here's my course outline. Okay, cool. Let me go back to you, and I can do where is okay, hold on. Let me cancel that. I'm going to try
So
this.
there's a way to share your whole screen or just a window or just a tab.
Oh, you're right. Let's see. Here we go. And share that. Okay, so can you see?
Yes.
Okay, dismiss. Okay, so this is my pre-AP course outline. This is what we're doing this semester.
And this is a year-long class?
This is just a semester class, but it's block.
Okay.
Um, so
is that the same amount of time as a year-long class? Or does that still count as a semester class?
Yeah, it's the same amount as a year long.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to I don't want to annotate anything, but I want to like move down on it at some point. Okay.
I
So
think you have to be on the actual tab or page, not looking at it through the Google Meets.
okay, so can you
Move
see me
around.
move? Can you see me move my mouse around?
I do.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So these are my units. Let me actually make this a little bit smaller. So I only have a couple of units right here, but I have it broken down into specific dates because I'm pretty anal retentive. And if I don't have these dates, then I get lost. So we really talk about the idea of subject, not topic, and concentration versus sustained investigation, and the difference between. So, and we also kind of tie in like how broad is too broad and how narrow is too narrow when you're coming up with your own like idea or topics. So we start off with broad, and it's very broad actually, and they have to brainstorm for one day. They just kind of brainstorm and sketch, and by brainstorming, they have to come up with like really broad topics. So the example here is food, and then they're going to create. They have 2 to 3 days, and they're going to create three. They're like 3x5 cards of images that relate to their broad topic. And then they have like some reflection questions they do after that. And
Now,
then
is this the images that are on the card? Are these little mini pieces of art that they've made, or these things that? Okay.
Yeah. And then they reflect on that. And then they have to, the next step is they have to take that same topic that was really broad and they have to narrow it down just a little bit. So if we started with food, then we go to breakfast. And then it's the same process of brainstorming different like breakfast foods and then coming up with different sketches on what could be these, these three pieces. And then they have 2 to 3 days to actually create those pieces, and then they reflect on that, and then they have to tighten it down even more. So then we're going from food to breakfast to waffles. This is just my example.
Right.
And so and then by the end, they have to create a mini concentration of 5 playing cards. And of those playing, I actually made them a little bit bigger than a playing card, but of those in their mini concentration, they have to choose like a certain level. Do they want it to be broad, narrow, or tighten? And the idea is really to get them to understand that if it's too broad, then your pieces don't connect to each other. If it's too tightened, then you run out of ideas, and it just looks repetitive. So this is a way that I can kind of kill two birds with one stone. And it's the concentration, you know, is like what the portfolios used to be like.
Right.
Um, but on the one hand, it's easy because they don't really have to think about a deeper meaning. It's really just like illustrating your topic. Um, so that kind of takes out that level of I have to really put meaning and everything behind this because we're not there yet. I really just want them to realize that if their topic is too broad, your pieces aren't going to look like they belong together. If it's too tight, then you're going to run out of ideas and you're not going to be able to come up with 5 different ideas. They're all just going to look like the exact same thing. So you really kind of want to be in that sweet spot kind of in the middle so that it can be diverse and you have a lot of ideas, but it's also still like kind of narrowed down a little bit. And so that's when they have to do their like mini concentration. And then we reflect on it and we have a critique and we talk about all that. After they've done that, and also these like all of these pieces, like their mini concentration and their 3 like actual pieces that they're making for each of these sections, those are like I really have them focus on technique and skill at that point too.
So what kind of materials are they working with for this?
It's totally up to them. So, some of them wanted to work in just graphite. Some of them worked in colored pencil, some charcoal. I think I had some watercolor. I had some mixed media, gouache, acrylic, pen. So I totally leave it 100% up to them. And we also talk about that too in our reflections and in their critiques is, you know, if every single piece has a different medium, how does that really build cohesion in your collection? Do you have like kind of a strand that holds them all together through your media? Or, you know, also, why are you choosing this media? Is this the right media for this topic? You know, if you're doing something like waffles or breakfast foods, then, you know, as the artist, what's going to be most impactful is like really kind of getting that viewer to dive into and be able to connect with this topic. So probably not doing it black and white would, you know, that wouldn't be as beneficial or as impactful as doing it in some sort of color. Um, Not saying it can't be beautiful black and white, but it's probably going to be better if it was in color. And so again, they're still kind of like being exposed to all these different ideas so that they're thinking at the very beginning, like, why am I choosing this material? Am I just trying to experiment with a whole bunch of different stuff? Or maybe I should like still kind of have some sort of commonality throughout everything. Um, and then we go into
Do you talk to them about or do you give them any guidance on whether one would be beneficial over the other of, trying to try lots of different things versus having, a common material or element that's repeated?
So, that's also part of, like, what a lot of like, the brainstorming and the sketching is, so that when they're doing their, like, thumbnail sketches and they're like, "I don't really know what material to use," that's when I push them of, "Well, try it out first."
Right.
You know, even if it's just, like, a little swatch or even if it's, you know, you've got these let's say you have 5 thumbnail sketches, you're only gonna bring 3 to fruition.
How
Try
big do
5.
you have them do their thumbnail sketches?
Um, it just kinda depends, honestly. Um, it also kinda depends on the student. Sometimes they try to make them too big. I'm like, "That's not a thumbnail sketch. That's like a full-blown sketch." And then some of them try to make them like this big, and then there's not enough detail in there.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, I don't mind if they're itty bitty as long as there's still enough space for them to really explore composition and media and, like, all that detail.
Yeah, one of the things my students really struggle with is doing something little and quick. You know, they want to spend hours on a thumbnail sketch, and it's like that's
You
not.
gotta you gotta go a little bit faster for thumbnail sketches. They're not supposed to take that long.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kinda I
just
definitely
trying
have
to
some
keep
kids
them
that are like that
moving is
too.
hard.
Mhm.
Like let's go, let's go, let's go. And then there's the talking and the socializing, that you throw in there, and
I think that's also what helps with my type A-ness as far as having the all the dates, like, "Hey,
yeah,
you guys can see we've got something planned every single day, and if you miss a day, that puts you behind." And I think that really helps. Right now, what they're working on is, obviously, because it's October 2nd, so, um, today so now they're into the next unit, which is small SI, and I gave them a whole list of, um, different, SI topics, and they had to choose which topic they wanted to do, and I just chose the topics based on, like, very common, um, topics that a lot of people do all the time. A, because I want them to just get it out of their system, um, but also I want them to not really have to think about the overall topic, but really focus on their guiding question. So once they got their topic, then um, they
so
had to
you always
develop.
use questions.
Yes,
Okay, 'cause
100%.
the most recent training thing I went to, they were like, well, now we're not calling them questions, we're calling them inquiries.
That's a question. Like,
Yeah, like
that's a question.
I'm going to do an inquiry on.
Yeah,
That's like
that's a
the
question.
teacher should answer the question.
So I tell them that up front. I say the College Board doesn't require you to have a guiding question, but I do because that's what's going to help ground you and keep you on track and keep you from like veering way off into Siberia and all of a sudden your shit doesn't like belong together. It's one thing if you veer off, if you can document why you veered
Right.
and how that has created this new path. It's another thing if you're like, "Oh, I'm in point A over here, and then I'm over here, and then I'm down
Right.
here, and then I'm way over here," and there's no clear connection, to any of that. So, um, that's why I really, really, really stress having a guiding question, and every single year, I have students that don't understand the importance of the guiding question every single year. And they're like, "Oh yeah, this is my question." And it's either A, too like I'm trying to sound really smart. So it's not really tangible. Um, and then they get 2 pieces in and they have no idea what they're going to do. They've lost direction of what their question is. So that goes back to the broad, the tight, and the narrow of is your question like way too narrow? Um, or is it like so broad that you kind of forgot halfway through what you were thinking of 2 months ago? Um, so we do a small SI so that they can develop a question. Um, and then they brainstorm, they sketch, they experiment with materials and just different ideas. And then they have 3 SI pieces that they're doing, and they're 11 by 14 minimum. Um, and like right now, they just finished their first. I don't know if I have a picture of it. They just finished their first SI piece, and then tomorrow they're going to reflect on it. And the reflection is more um, as far as like what's next. What are my next steps? What did I learn from this piece? Because my next piece has to build off of this piece. Um, and then we're going to critique all of them together. So one of my girls, um, she just finished this piece. I'm gonna see if I took a picture of it today.
So does one, do you, with yours, do you feel like it's important that the next piece builds off the previous piece?
Mhm. It doesn't. I think it's easier for them to comprehend that. So if it, and I also tell them that when you're working on your, like putting your final portfolio together, um, you don't have to put it in sequential order of how you
Right.
actually made it.
Right.
It needs to be in an, and that's also really tricky. And I can give you some tips on that too. Um, but you don't want it to, um, it doesn't necessarily have to be sequential unless your guiding question has some sort of sequentiality to
Right.
it.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
like
That's
if
kind
it's a
of
day in the life of, and it's like all random parts of the day,
right.
that's going to be confusing. Um, but, or if it tells a story, then you want it to tell a story
Right.
like you want it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the order that you made it.
Right.
So this girl, her, let me pull up. Hold on. File. Hold on. I'm trying to. Where are you? Topics from NSI. I got to remember what her topic was. All right. So, oh, was that last year? How did I not?
So are they spending? They're spending about the same amount of time
Oh, safety. Okay.
developing three pieces for their small SI
Mhm.
as they did on the subject not topic
Yep.
section relatively.
Yeah, about that. They get a little bit more time. They get four days to do one piece instead of 3 days to do three small pieces. Um, so they get a little bit more time, and they definitely like that. So this girl is doing her like topic is safety, and her question, I can't remember word for word what it is, but um it's basically how does she feel safe in her relationship with her boyfriend. And so it's about that. It's about her relationship with him, but how does he make her feel safe? How does she feel safe within that? And so I'm gonna see if you can. This was her first SI piece that she finished today. Let me see if you can.
Oh yeah. So he's
So
colored, she's black and white.
yeah, and if you see wherever he is touching her, she's touching him. She added color to it.
Okay.
Does that come through on there?
A little bit. Yeah. So she's
Um,
got a little color on her where she's touching him.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like on her forehead, and then like around his hand where he's touching her.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really subtle. She has a really good use of color in there. Let me see if I have some other in progress. That was not for that project. Let me see. So this girl, um, I don't remember what her topic was. Um, so she's using um, gouache on mixed media paper. And she's added a lot more color to it now. Um, but she likes using a grid. She got a 5 on her portfolio last year. I don't remember. Did I send you all of the
No, I
this?
know we talked about sharing our portfolios, and I don't think we actually did. I was hoping to at least show you one that I was really perplexed by.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Here,
she
let
got
me
a
see.
3, and I really thought she was going to get a 5. I was so disappointed.
She
I
got a
mean,
3 and you thought she was gonna get a 5?
yeah,
Okay. Um,
in the previous year, I had one that I had two that I really expected 5s from, and they got 3s. And then I had some asshole kid who did nothing all semester also got a 3.
hmm.
I'm like, what is happening?
So when it comes to order, what, and I'll share this with you. This is this will be raised, but when it comes to order, I tell them they've got 15 images. And for the actual class in class, they're going to have 12 um 12 like summative pieces that they have to finish. Um and
You give summer assignments?
we can't. They won't let us.
Even for AP?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, because there were too many parents that complained about work over the summer, even AP, and it was the AP parents, which I think is bullshit.
Wow.
But because I used to, and and we just can't anymore. So, so yeah, next semester they'll have 12 summative pieces that they have to do. And I tell them, you've got these 12 pieces. Ideally, I want you to have 12 finished pieces in your portfolio. And then that leaves 3 images of those 15 that are going to be examples of your experimentation, your reflection, and your revision. And that's like, and I said, and it needs to be collaged. So so they have to document like every little single thing. And I said, the more you document and everything I ask you to do is not busy work. You're going to be able to use it and it's going to be able to help your portfolio later. And if at some point, like let's say you get done, you only really have 10 strong summative pieces, then you can, that's the fewest amount of finished pieces that I'll really let them put in there. If they go any less than that, then it also probably means they don't have enough evidence of the practice, experimentation, and revision.
So do you ever, because I've seen so many different ways people do this, and I require that they do 10. And now I'm thinking maybe, but like mine are so freaking slow. And they do summer assignments, but a lot of summer assignments are more like getting the creative juices flowing, doing experimenting, doing brainstorming, kind of a lot of the stuff that you're doing, but I'm not doing that narrow thing. I like that. I'm going to try that. Yeah.
Let me let me show you Ray's so you can see how hers is set up. So let me go back to this. Okay. So can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are all of her stuff. This is her written piece. This is, let's see, is it gonna?
So they have
Okay, can you see
process. That? They have. I'm right now. All I see is your file finder, file explorer.
I want you to see. Okay.
You may have to. So if you share your whole computer, you might have to stop sharing and reshare.
Okay.
For your whole computer, it keeps you from having to jump back and forth and back and forth.
How do I share my whole computer?
When you do the share, hold on, let me see if when I look at mine. There's a
entire screen.
Yeah, entire screen.
Okay, cool. All right, so are we sharing entire screen?
Right now, I still. Okay, here we go.
All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is her first piece.
So much like a piece that one of my students did several years ago.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like with the stamp, the linoleum stamp, and the bag with goldfish. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So she did this to represent. So her whole portfolio is about man's relationship with fish, and how it can be good, how it can be bad for both sides. So this is how like people mistreat like their pets, like goldfish as a pet, but then they can't really release them because then they become an invasive species kind of thing. And that's why you have all the repetition of the stamps in the back. So she's got like kind of a lot of meaning behind that one.
Yeah.
And then we go into
I know what I was going to ask you. The process, does each process slide like this is only for one piece, Or do you
It
sometimes
just
mix
kinda depends.
pieces?
Sometimes it might be for multiple, sometimes it might just be for one. It depends on how much evidence they have. So she had a lot of evidence for this one piece. Um, and it also kinda depends on how they want to I tell them it has to be a collage, so obviously we've got kind of a lot going on. Um, and sometimes they'll like, she has a tablet, and so she, like, digitally hand wrote in all of this stuff up here.
That's another thing I learned rather recently was using your process slides to write in more information that you can't
Exactly.
put on the thing. I'm like,
Yep.
brilliant. Those
Yes.
darn 600 characters are,
Oh, brutal.
and I hate that we can't give any of our own feedback about the kids too, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
So this is just one piece. Um, this is another one.
It's gorgeous.
Here's this one. And so she's kind of going back to like the she's using all the same materials. So this is all gouache with some printmaking techniques on like toned or mixed media paper. So she likes the repetition. Um, these fish, so the background is acrylic, and then she painted and cut out each of these fish individually
Oh my
and
God.
then glued them on.
I would have never guessed.
Um, and then so, like, this piece, I really try to have them do their process pieces in front of the piece that you're about to see,
Yeah.
with the exception of the very first one, because you really still wanna start I tell
Not
them
with a bang. Yeah.
that start off with, like, a really awesome piece, capture their attention from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Um, so
I've
this
heard like bookending.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this piece here, this is her process, all of the different things that her reference images, how she chose her colors, um, and then her references over here, how she wanted to do them and how she wanted to develop this. So this whole piece is about how minnows have been used in like stem cell research to help rebuild human hearts.
Mm.
So this is her final piece. And then um, this is actually a transfer, um, an
No.
image transfer, the words. And then she painted this plate separately and then attached it to the background.
That is gorgeous. I mean, those vegetables
Mhm.
look like I could pull them off the page and eat them.
Yeah. And then this piece, it's just this like porthole, but she couldn't really figure out a way to do the background. So I was like, just blur the background so it's a non-issue.
Hmm.
She was like, oh. And then this is a collage piece. She did this like overnight. So she's got the mixed media with the string through here. And
Hmm.
then all of these pieces are just magazine cutouts. She's really, really slow. Like she was dragging her feet throughout the entire, like she would have almost all of them started. And then it just took her a while to like actually
Yeah,
finish them.
I tell mine they need to have two pieces at all times, like one at home and one at school.
Yeah, I try to encourage that as
But
well.
I don't know if it actually happens. I don't think it does.
And so this was she did a lot. So all of her little lily pads that she made in her piece are all cut out separately. So each of these little pieces were drawn and painted separately and added to her final painting. This is actually in the airport right now.
That's beautiful.
And then
Oh,
this piece. So, and then again, it ties back into the printmaking. She has this, the similar media throughout. Um, and
She's trying a few other things that shows experimentation and
right. So with hers, let me go back to here so you can kind of see the progression. And so what I tell them is start off with a bang, end with a bang. Hide weaker pieces between
yeah.
really good pieces. So like this one, she wasn't super proud of, so she hid it in between these two pieces.
Mm.
Um this piece she wasn't super proud of, so she hid it in between this piece and this piece. Um and she had a lot of documentation, so she didn't need more than 3 collage pieces.
Right.
But then I've got
So you don't have to have process for every piece.
no, and remember it also needs to be process over progress. So they don't necessarily want to see like, oh, I did a little bit on this, and then here's another picture just farther along, and here's another
Right,
picture just
right.
farther along. So this girl has a lot more process in here because while she's really good, she gave me a heart attack because she just wouldn't finish stuff. She would start it and it'd be beautiful, and then
How many finished pieces did she end up with?
so she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So
And
remember,
right
I stress to them like 10 is the minimum. You
there.
need to have 10 full pieces. So so her whole SI was like, how do distractions like lead to like burnout essentially. And so here she's like goofing off with her friends, and she incorporates these like pixelations, a because she wasn't happy with how that face was, but she's using these pixelations as
Synthesis.
symbolic of this is a distraction, but
Uh-huh.
she doesn't see it as a distraction. And so that's what's going to lead to her like procrastination. This she's not a distraction because at least she's trying to focus her back on like, hey, you got a 0 on that assignment. You should really work on that.
Mm-hmm.
And here she's just like laughing and giggling. And so this is her like brainstorming and sketches and her proposal for her next SI piece, which is this one. And this again is like how other pieces of art can be a distraction. Or other things. And so we've got this like we're in a classroom and clearly this girl should be working on something, but she's paying attention to something else. And so this is the distraction in her hands. Here's what her sketchbook looks like. So you can see her like thought process and ideas. This was going to be like a really good piece. I don't think she ever actually finished it because I think this is not finished. So this is what she was working on and she never finished it. And so I told her, I was like, then you need to really document everything in here.
Right.
Why you didn't finish it, everything that you've been kind of like pushing through with it, and really what you've learned from it, like all your reflections. And so then we have this. So it still shows, even though it's not finished, she has the documentation of the experimentation and the reflection, and even how she revised it. But then the piece itself still shows like she's got like a good handle on composition and dynamic compositions. And, she understands form and figure ground relationship and all that stuff. Here's
And when you have them do the writing,
Mhm.
how much do you mess with, improper punctuation and spacing and all of that, or do you make them do like? Because I feel like that the writing may be part of our problem?
Like in the writing process.
The what they actually end up turning in for the writing.
Oh, I edit everything. I don't let them submit it unless I've seen it.
Oh, same. I mean, I
Um,
literally will spend an hour, sometimes 2 or 3 hours, one-on-one with each kid
yep.
doing writing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we spend the last 2 weeks. Um, I'll show you an example um of their like spring semester because it's really intense. Because we don't really have the full semester. We've got January
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
April, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So this was supposed to symbolize like they were goofing off in class, and now he's like overwhelmed because he's got all this work to do because he didn't do the work in class. This is a piece why it didn't work. Again, more distractions in class. Um,
Oh my
and
goodness.
she's really good at like just basic sketching, honestly.
How long did
Um,
that take her to do?
this one probably took her like that class period.
Wow.
Like she probably did this in that class. This one didn't take her that long.
So in your foundational classes, your intro classes,
Mhm.
are they year long?
Nope, I don't have any year long. Everything's block.
Uh, Right, but it's still like a year long
Yeah, I mean,
time.
they get a full credit out of it.
Yeah, see, my intro classes are only half a credit.
Okay.
And
And it's still a year long or it's just a semester?
it's a semester.
Okay.
And I see them, every, the 5 out of 7 days thing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I kind of believe that maybe I'm just letting them take too long from the get-go, and I'm training them to be slow.
I don't know.
Because I mean, it takes us now. Granted, just processing this is going to be different for you, but it. I might get 3 or 4 lessons done in a semester. So if you double that for a year long class,
You
6
only get 3 or 4 for the whole year?
for the semester.
Oh, okay. I think that's
So that
okay.
would be like 6 or 7 in a year.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I think that sounds about right.
I just had a few of my students, when they get off to college, they're like, everything's going so fast, I can't
Yeah.
keep up. Ford told
Um,
me today, he says, I realize I'm going to have to be more selective with how I spend my time. I'm like,
yeah.
yep, welcome to studio classes. He's taking 2 studios.
Well, that's my pre-AP. I might just have to pull up my Canvas. I definitely find that students that took AP their junior year and then they take it again their senior year, they always do better their senior year or as good if they got a 5. Like those 2 that I just showed you were juniors last year and they're in my AP class again.
Yeah.
Um, and they got 5s last year. I have no doubt that they will get 5s again this year. But having already gone through that process and that pacing, even though they were very slow then, um,
Yeah.
they get it and they
I've seen
understand.
that. I've seen that
Um,
too with the kids that do the drawing portfolio the second year.
mhm. Let me see if I can pull up Canvas. Stop.
Would you mind sending me your pre-AP pacing guide,
Yeah.
syllabi, whatever? And then do you have a copy of the actual portfolio from the College Board on those 2 that you showed me?
Do I have
Because I'd love to read the writing that they did with that.
oh, that'll be included in the file I send you
Okay, cool.
because I make them like, is this the right one? Here's Ray's and all. It's so, where are you? Hold on. I gotta go back to, there you are. Okay. Share this entire screen. That's what I want there. All right. So this was Ray's. This was the fish.
Okay.
Within my pieces, I aim to explore the relationship between man and fish, expanding the idea through both the harmful and mutual parts of the relationship. In my works, I showed how we as people can be harmful to fish, even though fish have played a vital and more positive role throughout our cultures. I incorporated block printing and image transfers to illustrate the abundance of an invasive species, scientific research on fish, and childhood memories of fishing, and then figures 1, 6, and 8. Throughout my pieces, I pushed to expand my use of medias, even layering paper to give my pieces depth visually and symbolically, figures 14 and 4. I sketched and tested through compositions, planning, aiming to find what proportions fit, and even what colors, techniques, and media I wanted to use, figure 7 and 2.
Okay.
So in your kids' writing, are they
Can I show you this one portfolio real quick?
yes.
It's the
Sorry, my
infinity
screen is
mirror is
freaking out.
crazy.
Yeah.
All right, let me see where it is. Because I had pulled it up. Okay. Okay. So this student's sustained investigation was about well, I have to go over here. That's right. It was about addiction and what does addiction look like? What does it feel like? And so I'll show you the pieces first. And I feel like she did a really good job of using media and experimenting with media. And she was basically talking about, you know, this protective armor that we have and these people around us that are trying to help us, but they're separated from us. And then here's her process for that, which this is probably more progress, isn't
I
it?
think this is more progress than
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. Okay. And then this was another piece she did. Is that getting bigger for you when
Yeah.
okay. So, you know, this idea of what life will be like after you leave the addiction and how uncertain and unknown it is, even though addiction is, you know, it's ugly and messy, it's comfortable in a way, in a strange way, in their own illness because it's what they understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's her
It's
process.
just so like that one, because that's like a blank page on the left side, right?
Yes, yes. It's just a blank. I mean, there's a little bit of texture on it. I don't know if you can see the texture.
I just think like visually, it just seems unfinished. Um, like um, it almost kind of seems like a cop out. Um, like there should have been something. There should have been something in that blank space, whether it's like what symbolically could represent that next phase instead of it just being blank because it just looks like it just looks like negative space. Like there's just a lot of negative space there.
Right. Okay. Um,
That's pretty. Is that
this
marker?
was this was watercolor, I believe. Yeah, watercolor and white pen, blue pen. But sort of like the different feelings and emotions that you go through.
Mm-hmm. I like the movement in that. I think that's got like really strong movement. It's a good composition.
Yeah, this was one of her summer assignments. And then, I mean, this is somewhat process because you're seeing, you know, but we're not seeing how she made that background. We're just seeing once it's there. Okay.
Yeah, so I think these are more examples because she's just building on the same
Right.
it's the same
Progress.
image, so this is more progress rather than
Right.
process.
This one was really neat. She was like, you know, kind of digging a hole for yourself.
Mhm.
And this was done as kind of like a with plaster gauze, and she like built that little shovel out of paper. Um,
What portfolio was this? Was this drawing or 2D?
2D.
Okay.
And then this somewhat shows,
Yeah, I think this shows the process more,
right?
um, but I think this piece is more, um I mean, I think this is more of a 3D. I mean, I think it could also go into a 3D
Yeah,
portfolio.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I know a lot of those, like the 3 portfolios, they really overlap a lot.
Yeah. And that was one thing I told my students because somebody told me is that you are allowed to veer off
Mhm.
and do 3D if you're doing 2D, if it makes sense, if it supports your investigation. Um, and you know, she got like pine cone from outside, the little sticky, prickly stuff. Um, and then this one, she took a canvas board and ripped it
Mhm.
and was sort of showing, let's see, I think she talks about this one, just like how difficult it is for loved ones to watch their addicts suffer.
Mhm.
Um, I think compositionally, some of her stuff is not great. Um, and here we're seeing, I don't know what she did with this collage. It's not a great collage. See a little bit of being able to see under, but yeah, this is more progress.
Mhm.
Um, this one I loved. This one she put in her quality
Mhm.
or her selected works.
Yeah.
Um, just about how quickly addiction can uh like even in mundane tasks like filling your tank of gas, you know, there's this like, oh, shiny, sparkly thing that's drawing their attention even
Mhm.
in these mundane situations. Um and she did a lot of bead work. I mean, she worked hard on this
Yeah.
one. I mean, I think a little bit here we're seeing, but again, I do see what you're talking about with the progress.
Process versus progress.
Repass, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This I hated this piece, and she hated this piece. She should have just left it out.
Are
She was
these image
doing,
transfers though?
these are transferred. These are jelly
Yeah.
transfers.
So
Uh,
what would be really strong with this though is if she showed her practicing of this technique like in her sketchbook. Um, and then like her thumbnail sketches of what she envisioned this to be at the beginning and then her experimentation of using the jelly plates and what worked and then like notes to herself of what works and what doesn't work with
right, right,
um, the jelly plates. And then this piece would probably be stronger because you have that substantiation to it.
right, right. Yeah, I think she was trying to go for those little like plaster little elements that you see in houses, like the
Mhm.
Victorians.
Yeah.
Um, and this one, I'm trying to remember, this person has fallen apart and there's stuff inside the glass. I can't
Like their
remember.
pieces are being saved inside the glass.
Maybe, yeah, that's what it looks like. Um, Background's boring.
That's something that my kids struggle with so much is they just want to, like, not have a background or just a solid color, and that's something that I mean, it's like pulling teeth to get them to do
Where
something
did we
background.
do training together with Kevin Cole?
Mm-mm. Nope.
He was talking about don't make your background an afterthought, and that's something I
Yeah.
try and drive into him, but this still happens.
Yeah.
This was a kind of a neat. There was this house, and it's in her writing. That is a place where they would meet for their meetings,
Mhm.
and the guy that I guess maybe owned the house or would always be there to take care of the house. And he was a sponsor to a bunch of people. He passed away, and they had the funeral here, or the memorial service here, and she put flowers from the service. You can kind of see them
Yeah.
into the roof.
Mhm.
Um, Again, compositionally, not super exciting, but it's nostalgic for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and here she's showing, using the rose petals,
Yeah.
which I think is somewhat informative. Um, okay, so now we're to selected works,
Yeah.
and this one, and this one.
Now, do you have them choose all of their selected works from their SI?
Not necessarily. If they have stuff that's better from previous years, then it's like these are your best all-time pieces.
Yeah.
So,
And those are also the ones, because I feel like in the past, some of my students maybe got a lower score, like from the the feedback that I got in the past that um, some kids that I thought maybe really should have had a stronger score, like maybe they got a 4 when I thought they should have gotten a 5, or they got a 3 when they should have gotten a 4. Um, I think ultimately a lot of it came down to either not having good evidence of um, reflection revision, but also their selected works. Because, if they end up scoring, I don't know, like a 5 on their, um, if they get like a 5 on their sustained investigation, but a 3 average on their selected works, then their overall portfolio is going to end up being a 4.
right.
Um, and so I've been a lot more nitpicky about what pieces they include um, in their portfolios, but
Yeah.
also because some of them they go very stylistic with their SI, and it works for the SI, but it doesn't necessarily
Hold up.
really
Yeah.
highlight their skills and what they are capable of doing. And so it also kind of tells the judges that, and I don't know if the judges really think about it like this, um, but it kind of like tells them, hey, they've made these stylistic choices because they can't do XYZ. But if we show them, hey, they can do XYZ in their quality pieces, um, then it's, oh, they made this choice because it's more of a synthesis rather than a lack of technical skill.
Right.
Um, and sometimes like their best work really does come from their SI. But that's another reason why I really enjoy. So for this semester, they have a monthly homework assignment, and every month they have to. I just give them a medium, and they have to create something, and it's large scale because they have all month to work on it. Um, but it
Mhm.
also shows that they can work big. So if they have to work small for their SI, they at least have these pieces that they've done this semester that really focus on their technical skills.
So these are separate pieces you're requiring them to do outside of their sustained investigation.
Yeah, and they do them this semester.
And they don't have to have any kind of, this semester
is just the pre-AP class.
The pre-AP class, okay.
And it's their monthly homework. So like August, I think the medium was pen. Yeah, August was pen. September was colored pencil, I think.
So you just give them a medium, they have to come up with a piece?
Anything they want.
Nice.
Okay. And let me share my screen.
Okay. Can we finish real quick?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just want to make sure, because I want you to take a look at her writing.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to face your addiction?
Can you zoom in on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
One, I wanted to symbolize fear in pushing people to addiction. Use transparency to symbolize fake fear and emotions. 2, shows fear of unknown future. 3 is to show that addiction recovery is not just a straight shot. You can go back and forth, but the past does affect the future. 4 shows loss of friends and family and the struggle you face once you lose it. 5 shows a loved one's perspective and them having to watch because only they can face. Because only they can face. Yeah, grammar is awful here, trying to get all this information. 6 is a relapse. 7 is meant to show how glory alcohol is in media. 8 is someone trying to get back parts of life lost to addiction. It's very choppy. It doesn't flow at all, like the one that you read.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there's so much information to try and squeeze in there.
So what I try to tell them, or what we discuss with their with their written evidence, is there are 2 parts to it. The first is identify the inquiry. So
Right.
basically, what's your guiding question and why is that important? You don't have to, you don't, this is where you can kind of tell, like, why did you do this? And then the second part is describe ways that your sustained investigation was developed through practice, experimentation, and revision. So
Right.
in the second part, that's where you are, that's where you're showing kind of how you've answered that question visually. And that's where they put in their examples, and to break it. So you saw in Ray's writing where it said, figure this and this. So she's talking about a specific part that that she was trying to illustrate, and then it might have been evident in 2 or 3 different pieces. And so she would say, figure 3, 4, and 7 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way they can kind of break it up a little bit. And then remember, in the process for each individual piece, they can kind of like write in the process too. I know they only have 100 characters,
Right.
for those small ones.
Yeah. And that's the thing that you can't see on this, I think, or can't. Yeah. Right here. Rough, sketchy, gray wash for emotion, detailed night for strength, opacity for ghostly helplessness.
Yeah. So that's a really good way. That's a really good way to kind of add a little bit more information to your pieces too.
Yeah. But as far as, and then this one here, through pieces, I changed topic little. As I continued, I learned how to express some emotion without just drawing it. 6 was really a turning point for intricate thought. In 9, I showed experimenting with roses from a funeral. Jack told people in AA to mix extra paint. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Extra paint, not buy new paint. It turned out pink. I wanted to represent this as it was mentioned many times by those people at his funeral. In 3, I experimented with watercolor, flow, and controlling it. This was also a revision of a summer assignment I did in color pencil. I practiced working with acrylic many times. Too hard to read, probably.
Yeah, I would stay away from text talk.
Yeah.
Um, I would just stay away from text talk and um, and at least make sure words are spelled correctly. The other thing is,
Even, but
um,
I thought we didn't have to worry about spelling or grammar.
I mean, I don't think you really, not like really, really, but I mean, where she misspelled the word some, like that's one that you should be able to. Um,
Right. Yeah, I think we were just trying to save characters.
um, the other thing is, so it's kind of unclear. I mean, clearly she talked to you about what
Funeral and yeah.
about all of this and the funeral, but it hasn't been mentioned anywhere else. And then all of a sudden, it's like, who is Jack?
Jack,
And
hold on, let me see if it's in the house. This one here. Dry roses from funeral of AA sponsor who helped paint pink paste onto canvas paint.
like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to someone who's reading it and
Yeah.
doesn't know like more of the story. Like it might make sense to you because she probably like really explained everything,
Yeah. So what
but
do you
you
do
gotta
in situations where there's so much backstory?
that's
And
where they can put it in that um that first part. My guiding the question that guided my sustained investigation or my SI is blah 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 question mark. Um, this is important to me because, or I knew someone who was a sponsor. He passed away. This is, um, like she can explain all of that in that first paragraph. And then in the second paragraph, that's when she can start talking about like the visual things that she did to really answer that guiding question. Let me see if I've got a good example, another really good example of a written part. Um,
then I may need to do a to be continued because my brain is I'm starting to get really sleepy.
yeah, no, you're good. Okay, so this is another one of my girls. Um, this is her writing part. Um, I'm just gonna share that one with you. Window.
Do you ever get the writing teacher, like English teachers involved?
No, I'm pretty good at um, I'm pretty good at writing. Okay, so this is Mackenzie's. Let me make it bigger. Does that help?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. She got a 5 on hers also. So her first paragraph, I explored different interpretations of the question, what stories are found in a grocery store? I expanded the perception of an average location and started by portraying how the human experience can be different for each individual in a shared atmosphere. As the pieces progress, the idea of individual experiences develops into a reflection of how complex factors such as capitalism, personal habits, and unexpected demands affect the relationship with grocery shopping. I then branched from the grocery store setting to analyze how the groceries impact home life in a more intimate environment.
So you didn't need to put any numbers on any of that.
Not in the first. Nope.
Okay.
That's literally just what is my sustained investigation question? And then how was I trying? Like, what does that mean, basically?
Okay.
In my process, I prioritized identifying the angle I wanted my work to portray and how mediums and substrates can be used. So that sentence alone talks about how she is really reflecting on composition and how she's choosing different media and the substrate. So that's the synthesis of the material. As seen in figures 1, 6, and 10, I started investigating how products being the focus shows that the context of the product has different connotations. In figure 3, I experimented with personifying my compositions to broaden my message and carried this to figures 4, 9, and 13. As I played with mediums, I began using charcoal in figures 7, 9, 13, and 15 to establish a darker tone and display the messy implications of suppressing labor and the struggles of living in a troubled economy.
And those are only 600 characters.
Yep.
Wow.
So, yeah, I have them, they write it all out, and then I literally sit with each of them one-on-one, and sometimes it's way too wordy, and we have to chop it down, and then there are other times where it's kind of scattered, and I have no clue what they're trying to say, and we have to kinda reel it in and kind of figure out how best we can get the point across without, like, being too off the
So what kind of things do you have them do to start that writing process?
I mean, every time they begin a piece, they have to write their guiding question at the top of their brainstorming,
Yeah, I know that too.
so that they're always thinking about it. When they do their brainstorming, they have questions that they have to answer for every single piece. It's the same questions, but that way they're always kind of thinking about, like, why am I doing this? What am I trying to say in this piece? And then timeline wise, I give them basically they have a new piece that's due every week. Um, I don't make a piece due over February break or spring break. They can use that time to get caught up on stuff, but I tell them you need to start a new piece every week. And then when we get back from, and if you finish it, great. If you don't, you'll have time to go back and finish it. But they need to start a new piece every single week. Some will only take them a couple of days, some will take them a couple of weeks. And then when they get back from spring break, the week after spring break, that's their last piece that's due. And then they have 2 weeks. Let me see, the third week and the fourth week of April to finish up any of their pieces that aren't finished and to start brainstorming their writing. And then they have 1 full week right before
When do they start brainstorming the writing?
like the last week in April.
Okay.
And then they have a week to really just work on their writing and to revise it, and we talk about it.
Too. Yeah.
But they don't always use the whole week. A lot of times they're still working on finishing their
Or
pieces.
minor, yeah, for sure.
And that's like heart attack season for me, where it's very
How
stressful.
big are the pieces typically?
They usually start out bigger and then they start getting smaller so that they can finish their stuff. But that's another reason why I have them this semester, their monthly assignments are so big so that they have evidence of, hey, I can make something bigger than, 11 by 14. And I try to keep them no smaller than 11 by 14, but there are some students that like really need it to only be like 8 by 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope that helped a little bit.
It helps tremendously. I would love to get copies of your pacing for both of your classes.
Okay.
Just so that I could kind of, and I know that it's different, but I'll do, and I feel like kids get more done in a block than they do in 2 class periods.
Maybe my kids talk a lot.
Yeah, but like the time for cleaning up and setting up and and breaking the momentum, I just feel like
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know
it's
we're lucky.
difficult. Yeah, you guys are lucky, and that your kids are lucky that they have you.
Mm.
Well, thank you. I think my brain is at saturation. And I really appreciate you doing this so late in the evening. This will I hope it's not too late to right the ship. Because I do
Oh,
want to kind
absolutely.
of change some things with mine, and because they've got to get crack-a-lacking.
Yeah, I mean, it is not too late. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
October right now, and you have them all year, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
there are some like, I think Brienne, her AP classes this semester, and she only has it 1 semester, and she won't see them
Oh,
next semester. So, it's gonna be like, yes, they have that time next semester to work on their own if they don't finish it this semester, but she may not necessarily see them.
wow. Does she have a pre-AP like the previous year that they could? Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oof. Wow.
And her kids still do really, really amazing work too. So,
Yeah, she's a tough cookie.
mhm.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon, and
Okay. Shoot me your is the email that you sent me
that's my work email.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll send you the, I'll send you the stuff to that email if that works good.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much, Anne.
No problem. Have a
Sleep
good night.
well. You
Get
too.
some rest.
Bye-bye.
Bye.